We play so loud and all the amps couldn't take it, but now we got these amps that they work. You know, we can really push them, and we could blow this place apart if we wanted to.
How balls on your chin badass are the Ramones, you ask? Let's put it this way. Lemmy a Motorhead. He rode with Jimi Hendrix, he played with Hawkwind, he toured and glad-handed with every legendary act from Zeppelin to Deep Purple to Priest, Maiden, Slayer, and beyond. The only band he ever wrote a song about was the fucking Ramones.
How do you guys know each other?
They came to London and I thought, well, they look like me and they're playing short-haired music too, so we were the two crossover bands between long hair and punk.
There's nobody like either of our bands, you know. I mean, we're both of our bands have gone the distance and maintained the integrity.
Come up swearing.
The Ramones are the Black Sabbath of punk rock, meaning while you can trace back the heavy metal mythology to all the Blue Cheers or Alice Coopers you fucking like, it wasn't until Sabbath that it all congealed. Although I've argued with aplomb that it was only when Judas Priest paired it with twin guitars and leather-laden imagery that it truly became what we would recognize today as heavy metal. By the same token, while proto-punk had throbbed beneath the surface in the more pounding passages of Iggy and the Stooges or the MC5, and certainly through the Dictators, a band that gave the Ramones a focus and Manowar a guitarist, it wasn't until four floppy-haired fuck-ups from Queens crushed the crowd at CBGB's in dizzying 15-minute sets bereft of pauses that punk rock was truly born in America. Blow me, NME!
Punk came out, you know what it was in England? That was the last time anything really important happened in England, or came from England to affect anybody. And what's happened in America in 1991, 90, is that you finally got your own punk.
And Robert Plant. Shouldn't you be failing at folk rock with Alison Krauss, you no-pipes-having hipster fuck? Driven by the idiosyncratic shuffle of Tommy Ramone's percussion, and perhaps even more importantly, production, the spotty bass work and infinitely more impressive songwriting of Dee Dee Ramone, a rampage of riffs spurning indulgences like guitar solos flowing from the veritable font of fretwork that was Johnny Ramone, and the inimitable proto-Danzig melodic bellow of the golly gee giant Joey Ramone, a more dysfunctional foursome there never was, but fuck if they weren't and aren't woven into the very DNA of half the shit being made even fucking today. Today we take a trek through their finest albums, reviewing and expositing on each in sequence. As always, if you'd like to jump to your album of choice, the table of contents in the description is timestamped. Click like the Dickens, so slap on your leathers, lace up your chucks, and headbang along to the progenitors of punk rock, the Ramones.
We wore what we always wore.
Yeah, no, but isn't this a uniform too? I mean, you all have the same jacket on.
We went over it. When we started the group, we were talking about what we were going to wear. You know, when we started thinking about it, and we just decided to wear what we had.
All the big rock stars are wearing what we wear now, like Billy Joel, they're wearing their leather jackets, and Queen, and...
They're trying to be the Ramones, too.
Right, and all those stars.
Not all bands put their best foot forward at the first record. Fuck, many bands ingest said fucking foot. I've argued from the outset that an inaugural ass fucking is every bit as commonplace as a sophomore slump, but you ain't gonna find either with the fucking Ramones. Preposterously polished, incendiary, and subversive in equal measure, the Ramones invented not only punk rock, but their own signature interpretation of it, and bafflingly enough, they did so right from the goddamn beginning. The Ramones' seamless fusion of fuzz-laden fretcraft over hummable radio-friendly pop tunes, occasionally disguising a deeper urban or societal message, was a formula they would ride to relevance for the next 3 fucking decades, and it bears repeating, they did it right from the fucking beginning.
We didn't try to be crazy.
We didn't try to write things that were offensive or shock value. This was all natural. This is, we're trying to be normal. So.
You were trying to be normal and you failed.
One of the reasons I find the term pop punk such a laugh and a goddamn half is because, well, fuck, just listen to some of these tunes. I wanna be your boyfriend. Judy is a punk. And is there a single model of automobile, cellular device, tennis shoe, or soft drink produced in the last 20 fucking years that hasn't had, hey, oh, let's go, Blitzkrieg Bop play over the commercial at least fucking once?
Hey, oh, let's go.
I love when he does that.
Let's go. Hey, oh, let's go.
Look, point being, this song doesn't remain in the public consciousness just because some gray ponytailed pissant at an advertising firm with a prostate the size of a beach ball wants to pretend he's perma-hip. They remain commercially viable because pop is hard-coded into the very DNA of punk rock. Like it or not, all punk has a brutal side for a fact, and the Ramones are no exception, particularly in the lyrical content, such as the ever-enigmatic 53rd and 3rd, written by bassist and sadly died in the DMT drug fiend Dee Dee Ramone, the title itself referring to an infamous cross street in New York City where male prostitutes were known to confer to discuss arts and crafts, and so presumably for the purposes of procuring drug dollars was Dee Dee Ramone. But it's during the passages of the song that Dee Dee himself sings that the ambiguously autobiographical story takes a gnarly-ass turn. For his own part, Dee Dee stubbornly refused to ever elucidate on the subject.
What's the true story behind 53rd and 3rd? There's lots of rumors.
I'd rather bypass that.
Streetwise rawness cohabitating with melodious doo-wop, the opening salvo from the Ramones Militia remains one of the most earnest expressions of punk rock purity ever produced. Recommended? Oh fuck yeah, but brace for a dong load of deja vu here, because just like the Motorhead mythos, I'd be remiss not to open with the barely cognizant cuntwads who upon the merest mention of the band in question can't help but tiresomely recite the following horseshit cliche. But Razor, the Ramones just write the same song over and over. All right. The Ramones don't write the same 3 songs over and over. You listen to the same 3 albums over and over. And just as with Motorhead, wouldn't you know it, it's the first fucking 3. Here's the deal, Sergeant Sped. Of course the first 3 Ramones records sound the same. Sweet nipple-twisting Christ. 2 of them were recorded in the same fucking year. Once again, just like Motorhead, are you beginning to process precisely why these 2 bands got along so well? Don't dry hump Leave Home and Rocket to Russia and then blame the band that 2 albums that dropped in the same fucking year sound similar. The Ramones are a band that not only pioneered punk rock of the foot-tapping 3-chord variety, they ultimately expanded their horizons to include everything from hard rock to hardcore to outright AOR to heavy metal to old-time Ronettes R and fucking B it seems like any band that rather than surf the swells of commerciality right from the outset actually, God forbid, establishes its own fucking sound first, inevitably find themselves accused of a terminal case of same song. This is why downloading is bad, kiddies, because it conditions you to stop paying attention if a song doesn't nab you by the nads within the first 5 seconds, hence the recent deluge of pirate metal, crabcore, shoegaze, in short, indescribably gimmicky goat shit. And coming soon, goat shit metal, because how else would you describe Damage Plan? End of fucking rant. Next.
I had seen the Beatles at Shea Stadium in 65, I believe, 65 or 66, and they had played a half-hour show. So I figured, all right, if the Beatles played a half-hour at Shea Stadium, the Ramones should only be playing for about 15 minutes.
Give me shot to it. Give me shot to it. I wanna shot to it.
Quick query, Rageaholics. What to do when you already got the formula right the first time? Fuck you, we all know the answer to that. The same goddamn thing with better production. And that's precisely what dive-bombed onto record store shelves in 1977 with the sophomore follow-up, Leave Home. Deck the fuck out from collarbone to cock, and classic upon classic, Leave Home still features heavily in classic rock radio rotation to this day, not to mention the band's live set, at least for the foreseeable future, with particular attention paid to Pinhead, whose vaguely butchered movie quote of Gabba Gabba Hey would prove itself the band's unofficial slogan in a live setting, inciting untold legions of slavering headbangers to cast their fists skyward in unison for the next 2 decades. But for all the increasing prominence and production polish, it's in the more aggressive refrains that Leave Home truly shines, like the Johnny Ramone paramilitary anthem, Commando! This is just a killer record. Sadly, not unlike the fate that befell Motorhead's superb Bomber, Leave Home's only abiding error was that it had the misfortune to be sandwiched between 2 faultless fucking classics, and speaking the fuck of which...
Dee Dee just, freaking out, going, ah, and he pulling out that huge 007 knife, gravity knife, and I was between them. And Dee Dee's lunging with this huge knife to stab, and Johnny's going, what are you going to do, kill me? You going to kill me? By the time the tour for Leave Home had concluded, the Ramones manager had a wonky-ass idea. Conquer the UK! Surely you jest, they chortled. For what could these tweed-bedecked, crumpet-munching, cricket bat-wielding wanksters want with this funky-ass new invention called punk rock? Famous last words.
I think Johnny Ramone stuck his head out and went, what? And we went, hey, this is the Clash and this is Pistols, and we need to get in. And so they kind of formed a sort of human chain and pulled us up through this window. And that was the first time we met him, and it was just a really great punk rock moment.
The Ramones album was just like this. It was like, whoa, what the fuck? This is like, it's the album. Whoa, this is the way. It was like the blueprint. This is the way. This is what's going to do it. This is where we're going to knock everybody. Because we were looking for something so desperate. We were disenfranchised youth on the scrap heap. That's what they were telling us. And there was a band telling us, fuck you, fuck them, don't listen to them.
Everyone who was in a kind of band, who was going to be in one of the UK punk bands was there at the show. I think there must have been about 60 people in the audience, which is like sort of nobody, but everyone formed a band, They kick-started the whole thing in a big way.
Sadly, as the rocket to Russia was launched, it was the antics of said UK acts that, albeit debatedly, may have cost the band further commercial benefits. It's one thing for a bunch of mop-topped, unassuming oafs dispensing power chords like Colorado dispenses pot and shitty politics. It's quite another when the genre you've pioneered is now paired with the antics of UK darling Alice Cooper, to include bleeding, vomiting, and spitting at the audience and authorities on stage. And when the piss-yellow press in the UK gets a hold of the story, well, you can understand why Johnny and the boys might be a bit on the butthurt side.
An English rock band which has somehow developed a following by spitting into the audience, which frequently responds by throwing bottles at the band, has come to this country saying it is here to rip some dollars off the Yanks.
Go on, you've got another 5 seconds. Say something outrageous.
You dirty bastard.
Go on, again.
You dirty fucker.
What a clever boy.
What a fucking rotter.
Well, that's it for tonight.
Far more caustic in the long term, in my eyes anyway, was the mistaken conception from that point forward that England created punk.
They recently returned to the United States from a wildly successful concert tour of England, the ancestral homeland of punk rock, where concerts often end in violence and riots.
Thus divesting the Ramones of the creator status that may well have buoyed them to more bounteous commercial benefits.
My mother called me and said, punk started in England. And I'm like, oh, Mom.
All the same, you know a record is classic when one song alone can spawn entire bands. In retrospect, listening to songs like I Don't Care is like encountering an advanced scout for the sound the overrated-ass Misfits would build their entire fucking career on.
I don't care. I don't care about these words. I don't care about that girl. I don't care.
And hey, between the first album's Judy is a punk, the second Susie is a headbanger, and now the classic Sheena is a punk rocker, we are resoundingly fucking established that women do things! And whatever the fuck they're doing, it's catchier than the clap.
But Sheena was like we love surf music, and we thought we'd write a surf song, and that's Sheena.
Regardless, this record is just fucking savage. Every time you think you've reached the bottom, there's a new fucking basement with yet another Al Caponian treasure trove of yet more classic material. The Ramones were firing on all cylinders, and they fought for every inch of their newfound success. Peaking at number 49, they were just a cunt hair away from being top 40 Billboard badasses. All they needed to do now was surpass a fucking classic. Good luck.
Things sure have changed since we got kicked out of high school.
Oh, where are you going?
Going to Mr. McGree's class.
Oh, well, I'm happy to see that some students still are interested in their studies.
Hey, we're not students, we're the Ramones.
Ramones?
You said you've been true. Baby said that you've been true.
Having once extolled the self-evident virtues of the original Ramones trilogy, I have to admit, of the original classic 4-album pantheon universally regarded as the formative basis for basically all punk rock, 1978's Road to Ruin is my personal favorite. Much of my appreciation, I confess, is due to Riffmaster General Johnny Ramone's almost imperceptible shift into the realm of hard rock and heavy metal, and so was born the eternal Ramones conflict. Johnny, ever the gun-toting, meat-eating AC/DC aficionado, and Joey with his more pop-oriented protest music. It was the synthesis between the two, preferably while paired with Dee Dee's infectious hooks, that made the magic that was the Ramones.
So I'm a Democrat, and Joey was a Democrat. Johnny and Dee Dee were staunch, avid, right-wing, conservative fanatics, maybe which helped the music and the writing, but our political views were definitely different.
But as the guitarist and vocalist warred over the coming decade, the result would be musical schizophrenia. But for now, despite their political differences, Joey and Johnny were largely of one mind. And with Tommy moving from the kit to a more unifying influence behind the production soundboard, the result was punk metal majesty. New drummer and sadly only surviving longtime member Marky Ramone was a considerable step up from Tommy's limited skill set as well. And the step up in recording quality allows his snare to punch through the mix like pistol fire. It's pop meets punk with a balls-out bite more traditionally associated with hard rock, an approach made immediately manifest on the opening classic, I Just Wanna Have Something to Do.
I just want to be with you. I just wanna have something to do tonight.
But the punk is present and accounted for in the form of Bad Brain, the song that, like so many Ramones tunes, inspired a band of the same nomenclature, not to mention the iconoclastic anthem I'm Against It, Go Mental, and of course perma-classic I Wanna Be Sedated.
24 hours to go. I wanna be sedated. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. I wanna be sedated.
Wanna Be Sedated, the first song you recorded with the Ramones. It says that it was written by Joey while he was in the hospital being treated for burns on his face and his throat.
He got burnt by a humidifier, inhaler, to clear his nostrils and his breathing passages. It exploded.
Even pop tunes like Don't Come Close are solid to superb for those of you who watch these Mythos episodes solely to find out, where to start with a given band. The ravenous Road to Ruin is your fucking answer. Absolutely excellent. Next.
I remember Joey was saying, gee, Phil, I really want you to produce this because we need a big name producer for our new album, because Seymour said we need a big name producer and it'll help us sell. Phil said, well, if you need a big name producer, go find one. If you want Phil Spector to produce you, then I'll consider it.
On paper, Road to Ruin had everything going for it. An eye-grabbing pop art album sleeve, infectious pop-punk tunes, music videos out the vag-u, TV appearances, a motherfucking movie tie-in. So when the record, Some the Fuck How, wound up charting nearly 50 places lower than the slap-together Rocket to Russia record, there was more finger-pointing than Movie Bob at Krispy Kreme, too slick production, subpar songs, a record company too busy getting double-donged by disco to give it a proper push, but one of their most routine complaints was actually directed to the uptick of infamous UK bands and their headline-grabbing antics that cribbed their fucking style.
This movement is basically working class. It's nothing to do with the arty fart middle class, we're all right trip, It's basically working class from the roots.
One way they stood up for their working class audience and got headlines was by vomiting all over Heathrow Airport in London. And there were some four-letter words thrown about in loud voices.
Remember, I had written a song called Sheena's a Punk Rocker, and the record was doing really well. And then one day on 60 Minutes was the thing about the Sex Pistols and the safety pins and everyone gouging each other's eyeballs out, and everybody flipped out, and then things changed radically.
How do you feel about the English bands in general? I mean, they're nice guys.
With the interpersonal tension nearing its zenith, Tommy Ramone outright retired not only from the Ramones, but momentarily from music in general, and the hunt was on for a new producer, until Joey remembered they already had an offer that they turned down 3 years previous from perhaps the most prolific pop producer of all time, Phil Spector.
So I walk in there with the other three guys, and who's sitting next to him talking? Grandpa Munster. With cowboy boots on, a 10-gallon hat.
Johnny opposed it, or rather he would if Joni hadn't gone behind his back to hire him, kicking off a power struggle between the two that would continue until they called it a career. The result? End of the Century, a curious pastiche of dated pop paired with punk of the classic Ramones variety. If that sounds profoundly fucked, apparently someone neglected to tell the public because it became the highest charting release of the band's career, which given the budget, still amounted to something of a disappointment. The Square Enix approach, if you will. And it's a shame because while sentiment within the band afterward was, shit, even with Phil Spector, we couldn't break through a tissue paper hymen to get fucking radio play.
It was our big chance, and again, we didn't sell any records, So at that point, I knew that I finally accepted that that's it, we ain't selling any records. Just do the best we can do, try to keep our fans happy, don't let them down, and don't worry about it. Accept it.
In actuality, I think Phil Spector is the problem here. The key to the Ramones is 50s and 60s old-time rock and roll, power injecting coke into its crank and filtered through an endless fountain of fuzz. It's the Beach Boys on bath salts, and it's fucking glorious. The problem? Phil Spector is an actual honest-to-Murgatroyd old-time rock and roll producer, and he's nearly as adept at that as he is at showing female house guests a .44 caliber good time. But pair that with the already pop-oriented underlying sensibility of the Ramones, and you've neutered the band's entire gimmick, transmogrifying the Gabba Gabba Hey gang into the fucking Pseudo-Supremes, which isn't to say the album is wholly devoid of aggression or punkiness, and it should be mentioned that likely owing to Phil Spector's legendary perfectionism exclusively, the drum and guitar sound on the heavier tracks is positively fucking immense.
The rain's crying and the shower's on. It's hot as a
The sad what-if scenario here is that Phil Spector originally offered his services to the band during the Rocket to Russia recordings, and frankly, both would have been better served if he'd actually done so. The Rocket to Russia recordings wouldn't have been overly disruptive if Spector helped them pen a hit or two, and the lads in leather could have leapt headlong into the 80s with a head of commercial momentum rather than treading water and increasingly panic for mainstream acceptance. Instead, we got the first definitive punk goes pop record, along with Blondie, that is, lending license to any number of late 90s, early 2000s, cut my hair and cash my check lightweights like Green Day or Phoenix TX in the process. Despise them though I may, the fact is, those bands are less a perversion of their chosen genre than an ode to the progenitors of it, the Ramones. Say what you will about the Walmart family portrait album cover or producer Phil Spector's marksmanship. Commercially speaking, this was the beginning of the end rather than the end itself. Next.
Times have changed, and most producers from the mid-'60s haven't really grown with the changes. They're not able to do what producers now can do. There's a new modern sound, and he doesn't have it.
No.
His time's passed.
He seemed like a man walking his last mile doing our record, you know, that grim.
We want the airwaves, baby. If rockets gonna stay alive. Oh yeah, well alright, let's rock tonight.
End of the Century may have underperformed like a leper on a porn set, but as the highest charting release of the band's career to that point, they were looking to build on its middling success regardless, overpaying yet another famed producer, this time Graham Gouldman of 10cc fame, to craft a steaming pile of pop. But with Johnny eager to emerge from the specter of Spector, the result is perhaps the least cohesive offering of the band's career. From the janky production to grab bag genre hopping to the hey, my colorblind 5-year-old slapped this shit together out of construction paper, rubber cement, and spunk cover art, a few classics notwithstanding, something about Pleasant Dreams just feels profoundly fucking off. Like a band pulling in 3 directions and getting nowhere at sublight speeds. It's never a rosy portent for sonic harmony when one band member pushes for individual songwriting credit, as Joey did on Pleasant Dreams, and predictably he pens the vast majority of the subpar tunes here, but the few that land would prove to be live standards for the foreseeable future. She's a Sensation is the sincerest of supplications to vintage doo-wop, while the searing standout The KKK Took My Baby Away would keep Pleasant Dreams spinning, not to mention fans speculating from now until for fucking ever. What speculation, you ask? Oh, where to start? While accounts vary, they appear to have settled on the common thread that somewhere before or after the recording of End of the Century, guitarist Johnny Ramone began dating Joey's ex, Linda. Whether they were still together at the time, and whether Johnny bothered to tell Joey, time is never truly recorded, at least not consistently or objectively. What we do know is that Joey and Johnny Ramone, for a shoot, hardly had 5 words to say to each other over the next 2 goddamn decades.
Joey was seeing this girl, and John stole her away from him. That's life. Things happen. And you move on. You know what I mean? You don't hold a grudge towards a person in your band for 18 years, 17 years after that.
Would you look at him in the eye? You have not looked at Johnny once, Joey. Look at him in the eye. Johnny, is it hard for you to look at Joey?
Physically?
Yes. I'm asking Johnny.
No, I mean, well, I don't.
You guys have not looked at one another.
We're looking at you.
No, you guys have not ever once looked at each other.
You're talking to the microphone.
Looking at the host.
That is some Frank Sinatra caliber grudgifying right there. What does that have to do with the song in question? Well, listen to those lyrics a little more closely and think of how the politically left-leaning Joey Ramone might view his Reagan-supporting, gun rights-loving, lifelong Republican bandmate Johnny Ramone.
She went away for the holidays, says she's going to LA, but she never got there, she never got there, she never got there, they say, yeah. The KKK took my baby away, they took her away from me.
Itself the product of conflict, Pleasant Dreams is an appropriately conflicted record. Not unlistenable, and like all Ramones records, there's at least a handful of keepers, but in my eyes, they're weakest to that point. Next!
What's the transition like for you to all of a sudden come out and play a crowd of 100,000 people?
I suppose once you get over a certain amount, it really doesn't really matter how many people.
Yeah! We are the Ramones, yeah! And you heard it first, right here.
With Joey's pop crooning failing to light a fucking fart on fire, it was a foregone conclusion the guitarist, frontman, and all-around fucking slave driver Johnny Ramone would be in full force on the follow-up, which is precisely what happened with 1983's Subterranean Jungle, a diverse, distinctly urban, infinitely more aggressive album owing more at times to heavy metal than the doo-wop-laden punk rockery the Ramones are known for. For that reason, perhaps, this record is just as likely to elicit an eye roll as a pair of devil horns for the Ramones faithful, but frankly, fuck the faithful! This is one of, if not my absolute favorite Ramones record for precisely that goddamn reason. I think the issue most modern listeners have is they were introduced via the compact disc version of the album. Look, opening with not one, but two cover songs is rarely a prelude to a peerless classic, but when you lack the ability to simply flip the damn record over and get to the killer shit on the other side, well fuck it, slap it with the bad record stigma and move the fuck on with your lives. With gated drums and reverb aplenty, it's understandable why classic Ramones fans might be taken aback, but the band's renewed focus on urban aggression made this the first truly worthwhile release of the decade for me. Best track, without a doubt, the B-side behemoth, Psychotherapy, replete with accompanying music video that was banned by MTV for horror imagery the same week fucking Thriller debuted.
Yeah, we were always censored by MTV. We were, matter of fact, the first band to be censored, which I never understood, because Psychotherapy to me was great art, I felt. But right around the time that Psychotherapy came out, Thriller came out, and like to me that's offensive and that's violent and that's good. You know what I mean?
They wanted it edited, which we didn't want it edited, but the record company has edited it anyway and gave it back to them, and they still said it's still too violent, so that's it for that video.
Seasons change, MTV's blathering fucking idiocy endures. Subterranean Jungle is often regarded as an item of curio for Ramones fans, not merely due to the gated drums and experiments with AOR and reggae, but because it was the first record in the Ramones catalog to have a song that clocked in at over 4 minutes.
I have heard somebody say that if you can't sing a song in 3 minutes, you shouldn't sing it at all. Is that true?
Yeah, because the music that we grew up on, that we love, like, you know, the Beatles or the Who or the Kinks or the Stooges or whoever it would be, you know. I mean, you know, great 3-minute songs.
Just as an aside, if you look at the album cover, you'll note drummer Marky placed rather awkwardly in the passenger window of the subway car. This actually came at Johnny Ramone's behest, as Marky Ramone was soon to be shit-canned, proving there's only room for one alcoholic in the Ramones, and his name is Joey.
I was hitting the bottle a little too heavy, you know. If it starts affecting your relationship with the band, it's time to split, to get the hell out, you know. I drank enough for 100 people.
Baby mama drama aside, Subterranean Jungle will subterranean jungle you in the ass. Get it. Next.
What's in the future for the Ramones?
We're just gonna keep playing until we drop dead.
19 1983 began well enough, a new record with a more aggressive sound, and then that fabled Ramones luck struck again. Johnny Ramone returned to his old apartment one evening, only to see ex-girlfriend Roxy Ramone perched in front of her doorstep with her current beau, Seth Macklin of the band Sub-Zero. After confronting her, Seth intervened and by any reasonable metric beat the ever-living dog shit out of Johnny Ramone, including numerous kicks directly to the bulb-bedecked bonks. No big deal, right? Not so much, bitch. This ain't a fixed fight like WWE, TNA, or UFC, and Johnny Ramone was in critical condition afterward, requiring tense, delicate 4-hour brain surgery to repair his injuries and save him from death. In the plus column, the harrowing ordeal inspired a hell of a title for the next Ramones record. While Johnny convalesced with Marky Ramone doing a swan dive into the drunk tank, the hunt was on for a new drummer. The Ramones found two. Speed Demon Richie Ramone, who first began the tour with the band during the Subterranean Jungle era, even appearing in several music videos for the record in question, and in a transparent effort to realign the band with their bygone badassery, turning the knobs behind the production desk, was none other than original drummer Tommy Ramone. Marky's great, but with the addition of Richie, the Ramones went from ludicrous speed to full fucking plaid.
I remember I met Johnny Ramone and he said to me, "It's 2 minutes faster." And I said, what is? He went, "Oh, sir, it's 2 minutes faster than it was last April." I went, my God.
The result, what is widely regarded as the band's finest release of the 80s. For my part, I'd personally amend that, as I believe there's a strong argument to be made that Too Tough to Die is on par with, if not superior to, any of the first four records, broadening the musical palette to include hard rock, heavy metal, hardcore, and believe it or not, fucking chiptunes. If you ever want to obliterate the age-old Ramones have a righteous case of same-song argument, hand him a copy of Too Tough to Die and watch his shit-eating smirk turn into a bitter beer face. Oh, it's got the classic Ramones sound, the towering title track, Chasing the Night, Danger Zone, but it's the musical experimentation where Too Tough to Die truly shines, such as the atmospheric anthem I'm Not Afraid of Life.
Mankind's almost out of luck.
But for my money, it's the band's most convincing foray into outright motherfucking metal that takes the cake here. I don't know what's more impressive, a punk band adopting a foreign genre that convincingly, or the fact that the lyrics could be just as applicable if they were written last goddamn week. Too Tough to Die may have been ignored in the 80s, but no record since the first four sounds fresher today. If you need a decent starting point, you can't go wrong with Too Tough to Die. Next! Ramones meet Jean Beauvoir. Don't know who the fuck that is? Well, if you love the 80s Stallone turbo classic Cobra, you goddamn better. Former bassist of the Plasmatics, today he's perhaps best known for a string of minor butt rock ballads in the 80s as a solo artist. Look, I dig the living shit out of the dude, but Producing a Ramones record? Well, the end result is every bit the musical muddlefuck you might expect. With Richie Ramone now on his second album with the Chuck Taylor triad, he at last tried his hand at songwriting. The sum of this effort wound up being one of the most bizarre yet bafflingly addictive experiments with melodic heavy metal the Ramones ever committed to tape. Witness now, Rageaholics, the birth of Cosby Metal.
Hey, what's in that drink? It feels like somebody put something in my drink. Somebody put something in my drink.
No, that's not a guest vocalist. That is a presumably shit-faced Joey Ramone doing the most batshit Lemmy impersonation I have ever heard in life. Animal Boy itself also notably concludes with the brightest red throbbing middle finger in the history of music leveled square in the direction of the protracted slacktivist circle jerk that was Live Aid.
I hear you got plans on how you're going to finance your retirement.
You mean with the benefit that Mick Jagger is doing for us and Lionel Richie? Yes, all the rock stars are getting together and doing a big Ramones benefit so we can retire.
This is going to be one of those big stadiums in America that they all love playing so much, is it?
The biggest stadium, Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
And Reagan's going to come out there and
Throw out the first ball.
Throw out the first ball.
What is Ramones Aid all about? It's about people. People who care. We think the time has come for caring people who care about people to stand up and be counted. The Ramones are standing tall for every cause. So please, reach deep into your hearts and deep into your pockets.
I don't know about the quality of the actual song, but it pissed Rolling Stone right the fuck off, and name one time that was ever a bad thing. Animal Boy still has the characteristic speed and aggression of earlier outings, but this would wind up being the last full-fledged attempt to broaden the band's repertoire, the mixed results going a long way toward explaining precisely why it was the last. Not a bad record all in all, slathered in Jean Beauvoir's omnipresent synthesizer or fucking not. Next.
Let's pull up to a stop, and you have to ask Monty on this, but we get out and we're somewhere like in Arizona or New Mexico, and we get out of the van, and the lady says to Monty, are you taking care of these like retarded boys? And the lady thought that we were retards, you know?
I wanna live, I wanna live my life. I wanna live when I want to.
Following up the poorly received synth rock stylings of Animal Boy with something more aggressive was virtually a goddamn given. What no one could have predicted at the time was that the album to follow would be easily the most metal release of the Ramones' career.
Bop till you drop, bop till you drop, bop till you drop.
Punk, as a stylistic musical piece of art, has become involved in a lot of other musics like heavy metal, hard rock, etc., etc. How do you see that? Why is that?
Well, I think it's the way it's evolving. I think it's healthy.
Richie Ramone wasn't long for the band at this juncture, however, as his heretofore career-making gig turned out to be not nearly as career-making as he'd hoped.
And you gotta remember, there was a lot of money in T-shirts made. When it came to T-shirt money, I wasn't a Ramone. And this is after 5 years, you know? I felt I was due. I wasn't asking for the world. I felt I should get a little of that T-shirt money. What's the big deal?
You may scoff now, but think about how many preem and pop princesses have rocked a Ramones shirt and then when pressed for a favorite track respond, that Hey Ho Let's Go song? That shit Prince money, and I don't necessarily blame a guy who was fast becoming one of the band's principal songwriters for demanding a slice of the cheddar. Dee Dee Ramone, meanwhile, didn't want a slice of a fucking thing that wasn't named China White. A veritable hurricane of heroin addiction, the Ramones soon found themselves without a bassist, not least of which because of an outright fucking overdose. Dee Dee, for his part, was promptly hospitalized, only to emerge as Dee Dee King, one of the first and undoubtedly the worst progenitors of a nascent genre known as white fucking rap.
I'm a funky man, I got funky bones. I'm a funky man, my name is Dee Dee Ramone. Funky.
Fucking awful. Fortunately, halfway to Sanity, is not. Next.
I couldn't do rap. I was trying. I don't know how. I'm not good enough to know. I'm not a Negro or something. I don't know what it is. I just can't do it. I wanted to.
Baby, don't bust my jam.
With the typhoon of tragedy still whirling the fuck about them, Ramones still had motherfucking music to make. 1989's Brain Drain, in my estimation, was the first record to suffer immeasurably from the experience. Ostensibly a harder-edged album in the vein of Halfway to Sanity, with experimental aspirations more in line with Subterranean Jungle, Brain Drain lacks the sonic commitment of the former, or the naive novelty of the latter. It does, however, have one saving grace, and that saving grace's name is Pet Sematary.
I don't wanna be buried in a pet cemetery. I don't want to live my life again. Fall addicted to the sacred.
Featured heavily in Stephen King's film of the same name, scoring a soundtrack even for a B-horror flick was a vital shot in the arm to offset all of their bassist shots to the arm. The song itself was written in Stephen King's basement by Dee Dee, one of his only significant contributions to the record. Fuck, even the bass tracks were performed by Jean Buttfucking Beauvoir. The Ramones had been plucked from the jaws of dissolution by their old pal Marky, but as the 90s dawned, to complete the rhythm section, they needed a bitchin' bassist.
I actually was in jail when I got the word that I was in the band. When I auditioned, I was still in the Marine Corps, so to stick around for all the auditions, I became a deserter.
CJ's Marine roots not only ensured Johnny had a sympathetic soul in a socio-political context, but ensured the newest addition to the Ramone family was amenable to the rigid and regimented touring schedule endemic to the band in question. While CJ wouldn't contribute creatively to Brain Drain, he injected the band with about 4,500 cc's of new fucking blood at a time when they were a good 6 feet under the grave.
CJ, our new bass player.
I made it.
It's a real exciting time with CJ in the band and Dee Dee leaving, having left the band, you know. Actually, I feel he did us a real favor by leaving the band.
The Ramones are, to me, just like in the past now, and they aren't to a lot of people. A lot of people love the Ramones, but to me, they're just history.
Brain Drain ain't the best, but with a new decade on the horizon and a new bassist boarding the SS Ramones, they were ready to take it to the 90s. Next.
So, came back, I was sober, and things were fine, except the tension between Johnny and Joey was still there. And I thought, Jesus Christ, how long are you going to hold on to this shit? You know what I mean?
By the dawn of the 90s, the Ramones sound was alive and well and printing platinum albums planet-fucking-wide. The catch? None of those albums were actually released by the fucking Ramones.
They're put together by a producer, like the big grunge Backstreet Boys. Get a couple sort of okay-looking boys, and then they dress us in the flannel and stuff. And it's been 10 years. The statue's up, and the truth is told.
Everything associated with grunge became ripe for mass consumption.
I remember seeing some catalog, and it was like the grunge look. Check this out, this is insane. Wow, it's $80 for a flannel shirt that you get at Chubby and Tubby's for $5.
Let's see, stripped down melodic tunes with an underlying pop sensibility, bleak lyrical worldview with frequent forays in effectless juvenility, a band that refuses to dress up on stage, opting for street clothes instead. I wonder why no one thought of this before.
Kurt Cobain, you want to shoot yourself? Go ahead. That's all. I mean, he had everything, what do you know? I can't feel bad for somebody who's has everything they wanted and is still miserable, I mean, you feel bad for someone who's walking down the block and he gets run over while walking on the sidewalk and, and is paralyzed or something. You feel bad for victims like that, not for somebody who has everything they wanted and is still miserable with life. And, and he's on drugs and all. That ain't going to help the situation. So he wants to shoot himself. Go ahead.
The fact is, grunge owed its very essence to the fucking Ramones, and in retrospect, it is truly baffling that a band this seminal to the prevailing hit makers of the period somehow never managed to board that great big steam-powered money train called grunge. By now, the band's status had lapsed into legendary, which is as much a hindrance as a boon. On the plus side, they were a pop culture institution, doing guest shots in movies, on radio, and even unsuccessful sitcoms.
Here are several fine young men who I'm sure are gonna go far. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ramones.
Hi, these minstrels will soothe my jangled nerves.
I'd just like to say this gig sucks.
Hey, up yours, Springfield.
But as a byproduct, the public didn't give the faintest of fucks about their new material, which is a shame because while 1992's Mondo Bizarro elicits mixed appraisals from the Ramones faithful and, well, fuck, even the Ramones themselves.
Do you like Mondo Bizarro as an album? I don't think I like it. Let me take a look so I can tell you if it's more accurate. Okay, Poison Heart. Okay, Mondo Bizarro, no, I don't like it at all.
Functionally and musically speaking, it's really not that fucking bad. And while I personally believe Howard Stern is a talentless toucan, to his everlasting credit, during this period, he pushed the band as hard, if not harder, than their own worthless fucking record company did. In the negative column, however, Howard Stern did this the same way he always fucking does, by using people's personal problems as rocket fuel for ratings.
He doesn't like to talk.
Marky, is that why Joey's upset?
I'm not going to say anything. I mean, if he doesn't want to mention, that's his business. You know, I mean,
You know, Mark, it's like you telling everyone that you were a wig. You know, I mean, it's like each his own, right?
What is that?
A what?
You were a wig.
A what?
A wig.
What's a wig?
I don't know what he's talking about.
He wears a wig, you know, he's bald.
Oh, yeah. You're bald. Yeah, I wear a wig.
Teresa?
Nothing. You do your compilation album.
Okay, thank you. I will, and I'll see you in hell.
Which is a shame because the Ramones had an impressively diverse collection of tunes to traffic this go-around, from the borderline prescient censor shit.
One of the songs I've been writing is called Censor Shit, and it's about all the shit that's going down now with PMRC and just getting worse in America. I mean, it's crazy that the rest of Europe doesn't have any sort of censorship whatsoever, but it's all here, and we're supposed to be the advanced country.
The free country, right.
The free country, the liberated country, and what, you know, you say, what the fuck's going on?
What's that sneaking on my CD? Is that some kind of warning to protect me? Freedom and joy.
To an infectious cover of the 70s Spider-Man theme, but the most impressive moment also served as something of a bookend for the band's attempts at commercial acceptability. An out-of-nowhere AOR tune penned by Dee Dee Ramone's ex-wife, Poison Heart is as haunting as it is infectious.
Try to forget yesterday. Well, I just want to walk right out of this world. 'Cause everybody has a poison heart.
Alas, the record companies, loath as they were to pay the hair metal bands what they were actually fucking worth after exhausting their 5-album record contracts, were pedaled to the floor on flannel rock, and thus the song, like most of the Ramones' latter-day output, was almost deliberately fucking ignored, even as their disciples printed platinum. Fuck MTV. Next.
Please welcome the Ramones.
Thanks, man.
Say, fellas, tell us about your new record.
Adios, that's our latest album. It's a cover album of songs that were recorded in generally around the 1967-68 period of time.
And it's just now coming out?
The most celebrated songs of the previous outing coming in the form of a cover of The Doors' Take It As It Comes, and the band far too busy boring a hole in each other's skulls out of mutual fucking resentment, the decision to devote the next album exclusively to covers effectively made itself, which is precisely what it goddamn sounds like. An album that made itself. Devoid of production, oversight, or even the most cursory support for the record company in question. A 5-alarm afterthought. And sadly, it also continued the band's nigh-interrupted streak of horrendous choices for a music video single, and I mean it here, folks. No one chose the wrong fucking track to push quite like the goddamn Ramones. Hey, we knocked out Too Tough to Die, our heaviest, catchiest offering in a goddamn decade. Should we maybe pick one of the stronger to... Fuck it! Pick that sha-la-la bullshit, and be sure to put the band in a fucking crate for the entirety of the vapid-ass video. And so, one of the shittiest videos in Ramones history, sadly one that also features a cameo from the ever-loving Lemmy Kilmister, Substitute, came kicking and screaming into a world that wanted not a fucking thing to do with it.
Hey, buddy, check it out, Lemmy. It's a chick from White Zombie.
Yeah, that is Lemmy.
What's he doing in this video?
He's Lemmy. He can walk into any damn video he wants.
Oh, yeah. That's probably because he rules.
But I get it. Apart from the odd songwriting contribution, the band lacked the artistic acumen of primary songwriter Dee Dee Ramone, and thus Acid Eaters served as something of a holding pattern until the proper yarn could be spun. Little did we know the only thing that was about to unravel would be the fucking band.
Adios Amigos supposedly is the title because you guys are supposedly calling it quits, but then there's been talk on the internet that maybe you're not. I mean...
No, this is probably our last area performance. This is gonna be our last album, studio album, and the band's gonna we're calling it a retirement.
When I see my parents fight, I don't wanna grow up. They all go out and drinking all night, and I don't wanna grow up. I'd rather stay here in my room, nothing out there but sand and gloom.
There's something just profoundly fucking Ramones about the fact that the band called it a career in the same decade where literally every platinum popular radio rock throwaway tore a page out of their playbook and struck a veritable gold mine of, well, gold fucking records thereby. But after buying some time with the asinine Acid Eaters, seeing their commercial prospects dwindle, wither, and vanish over the distant horizon, it was at last time to bow the fuck out in unison. But what an album to bow out on. Kicking off with a cock-punching cover of the Tom Waits tune, I Don't Want to Grow Up, we're off to the races right from the fore. Fuck, even CJ gets in on the action, penning 2 songs and performing lead vocals on 4. It goes a long way to validating Johnny and Joey's longtime contention that without the newfound bassist, the Ramones may well have imploded 4 albums the fuck earlier. Adios Amigos is by far the best they banged out in the no fun allowed 90s, and assuming you can find the fucking thing, don't be a pussy, procure that shit. While the reasons for the demise were somewhat amorphous at the time, hand-waved away with a simple, we want to retire before we start to suck.
You do it as long as it's fun, as long as you still feel you're good, but I think rock and roll should be retired by the time you're 50 for sure. Especially punk rockers, yeah.
In retrospect, my guess would be it may have had something to do with Joey Ramone learning he was living with lymphoma the very same year. And it was around this time that the Ramones ceased to be a band and became a fucking death factory. Joey, followed by Dee Dee, followed by Johnny, and just 10 years later, Tommy. Evidently being a Ramone is the rock and roll equivalent to being a fucking Kennedy. Fuck, by the end of the decade, even Razor Ramone was checking his brakes before he started his goddamn car. Funny. Every time he got in, the oil light came on. And while the Ramones may have started in the 70s, it's important to state that these were not elderly men, folks. Joey didn't make it to 50. Johnny barely got there. And Dee Dee bit the big one as soon as he hit the big one. Evidently, Joey was holding a fucking monkey paw when he sang the words, I don't want to grow up. Perhaps most sobering of all, this rash of deaths came right as the pop-punk explosion of the late 90s and early 2000s reached full flower, as Green Day's American Idiot and MXPX's The Ever-Passing Moment perched atop the Billboard charts. Rather than exploit the newly relevant subgenre they both created and fucking perfected, the Ramones were playing pinochle with the Grim fucking Reaper. On the subject of untimely death, I'll leave it to Joey to shed some levity.
What was it like to know Sid Vicious?
He's dead.
Fortunately for at least 3/4 of the band, Joey's untimely death did spur the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame toward a spasm of common sense. They actually goddamn inducted a band while they were still young enough to fucking enjoy it. And with the event taking place in 2002, the same year the Oscars became an anti-Iraq war wank fest, Johnny Ramone took the opportunity to pinch a steaming log on the indoctrinatively liberal music and film industries.
God bless President Bush and God bless America.
I don't even like George W. Bush, but that right there is the single most punk rock moment in history. In one sentence, Johnny Ramone pissed off more people than Johnny Rotten did his entire goddamn career. Deal with it, bitch! But by 2004, both Dee Dee and Johnny would fall to the Reaper's side, leaving Marky all by his lonesome to represent a band he didn't even really found. Bottom line, if the story had a happy ending, it just wouldn't be the fucking Ramones. They were the Paul Reveres of punk rock, absorbing the slings and arrows with stone-faced professionalism, fated to be forever denied the fruits of their own labor. So you dig thrash metal, punk, grunge, speed, black metal, hardcore, name a fucking rock genre, you can thank the Ramones for its very existence, until we emerge once more from the mists of the mythos. I'm Razor Fist. Godspeed.
From Kingston, Ontario, do you feel like reading out the request, anybody?
Yes, CJ, you can read it. Dear Much Music, I am in desperate need for your help. I just read an article about the making of NKOTB's video for the song If You Go Away. If this video is available to you, could you please play it on RSVP? Me and hundreds of other New Kids fans would greatly appreciate this. Well, Tammy, here is this totally shit video.
No, 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 no!